A big possible return, plus we're talking about some commentary changes for the WWE, and yes, we are going to talk about some big NXT announcements. It's all coming up right here on The Angle Show. Yes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Angle Show. Just a quick reminder, we do got a promo code that is set to expire this weekend, summer 24, 15% off. If you guys want to purchase some merchandise, it definitely helps out the show. As always, it is greatly appreciated. Let's kick things off with The Undertaker. He was on the Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul. And if you guys didn't watch it, if you guys didn't listen to the podcast, I highly recommend it. Undertaker, obviously a legend in the business. Logan Paul, influencer turned celebrity boxer turned professional wrestler. And the craziest part about it all is that Logan Paul is actually really good at entertaining the fans, but he's also really good at wrestling inside a wrestling ring. This is a fantastic conversation, but Undertaker is not holding back about wanting one more match. And I think it's important that we have this discussion because, quite honestly, Undertaker doesn't need one more match. And maybe this is a unpopular opinion, but with the way that WWE is currently set up and there's so many new faces being pushed, so much talent on the roster, and there's still people who aren't even being utilized, I want that TV time to go to one of those guys. Now, let's just be very fair and let me be pretty clear on this. If The Undertaker were to come back for one retirement match, it cannot be against AJ Styles. It cannot be against Seth Rollins. It cannot be against CM Punk. It can't be against somebody established. It would literally need to be against one of the up-and-comers, and that would mean Ilya Dragunov, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed. You know, like there's just so many other guys who are waiting for that opportunity. That's my point. And look, I'm not sure if I really desire a match between Ilya Dragunov and Undertaker, and I'm not sure if it really makes sense. Maybe Braun Breaker versus Undertaker could make sense. I don't know. But my point that I'm trying to make is the only way possible I would want to see an Undertaker return match happen is if it is truly putting over somebody that is going to be the face of the WWE at some point in the future. And that's exactly why I'm so weird about legends coming back and returning, because look, it's cool when they return, and I loved what Undertaker did at WrestleMania 40, and if he wants to keep getting involved in WWE in that capacity, that is incredibly cool. I just think right now the product is so hot, and you don't need The Undertaker. You don't need Trish Stratus. You don't need The Rock. Yes, when you have these people on your TV, yes, it is good and it's great content, but yo, you don't need to rely on the big names anymore. WWE is far beyond that. The WWE brand is stronger than ever. The roster is stacked more than ever. Yeah, it might not be a popular opinion, but I don't necessarily desire Undertaker coming back for an actual retirement match. I thought the way he retired was a good way to go out, and I wouldn't change anything about that. Let's talk a little bit about Michael Cole and the WWE commentary, because again, there is another change. This is where it gets really interesting. We know Joe Tessitore, he is part of ESPN. He's coming to WWE. He's going to be on WWE Raw. That's happening September 1st. We already know this. With that move, Corey Graves will be moving to WWE Raw, going side by side with Joe Tessitore. Now, Michael Cole is moving to SmackDown. And this is where I laugh a little bit, because Michael Cole just bounces back and forth at this point every time. Now, according to Dave Meltzer, he says this is actually temporary. He says that the current plan is for Tessitore to be moved to SmackDown in January, while Michael Cole will be put back on Raw just in time for the move to Netflix. Now, I don't know if this is something where Netflix desires Michael Cole being the voice of their show. I don't know if this is WWE wanting him, but listen, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to try not to laugh, but I'm going to tell you guys, Michael Cole is my favorite commentator of all time, and the reason why I'm trying not to laugh is because I already know the reaction to when I say that is just going to be absolutely insane. I've said it before. I've seen the comments. People literally hate when I talk about how good Michael Cole is, but I think even now with Triple H being in power, he's not constantly in Michael Cole's ear, pissing him off and restricting what he says. He's way more fun, and I think that's really important. I also think we need to acknowledge what really sucks about this whole ordeal with WWE is that they keep making commentary changes. And I think a lot of that actually falls on Pat McAfee. And I don't know if it is true, so I'm just making the assumption. But when Pat McAfee leaves, that's when WWE decides to do a little switcheroo. I really love the way commentary teams are set right now. I love the way Corey Graves and Wade Barrett are doing SmackDown, and I love the way that WWE Raw is presented with Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. I just think it has a very nice touch to the actual product itself, and the chemistry for both shows and both commentary teams is just at an all-time high. Joe Tessitore coming in, like, I'm cool about it. I thought his voice, it's a good voice. I've heard him do the boxing stuff. I've heard him do the other sports. I think he's got a nice voice. And the cool thing is he actually seems to be a fan of WWE. So this is not some random outsider who's coming in who's going to half-ass it, right? That doesn't seem to be the case. But obviously Michael Cole going to SmackDown will be happening. And then once Raw hits on Netflix, he'll be back. Look, I hope WWE has a strong rebrand for Raw on Netflix, SmackDown on USA, and NXT on the CW. Revamp everything, the logos, the brand, the stages, everything, commentary teams. That is the time to truly press the reset button. We talked about it before a year ago. WWE does have plans for that to be the case, so don't forget it. Keep in mind, we'll see what happens as it happens in real time. And that brings us to NXT on the CW. Obviously, big plans for WWE. They just announced some really exciting news about NXT because the first 2 episodes on the CW will be taking place in actual arenas. That's right, they're going on the road again. The first one being Chicago, the second one being St. Louis. And WWE is doing a nice little incentive for those cities because CM Punk will be on NXT in Chicago and we will get Randy Orton in St. Louis. Now, I've seen some people talk on social media. The reaction is quite interesting. And the reason why the reaction is interesting to me is because people say, well, NXT shouldn't have to utilize bigger names to come in and try to sell tickets. And that's where I actually disagree. NXT could be the third brand, but at the end of the day, they're still developmental. Also, when it comes to the brand split, you got Pete Dunne working Raw, you got him working NXT. Like, it's not a foreign thought to see talent cross over from the main roster, go to NXT. CM Punk going to Chicago makes sense because the Chicago fans deserve to see CM Punk in general. And if Raw's not in Chicago and SmackDown's not in Chicago, then you bring CM Punk to Chicago, you try to sell some tickets, and hey, maybe you can utilize a little bit of that TV time for CM Punk to get involved with an NXT talent and maybe put him over. Maybe do something that like creates a moment that gets everybody talking on social media. And the same thing could be said for Randy Orton. Randy Orton going to NXT in St. Louis will drive tickets, but if you can do some sort of program or plant some sort of seed where maybe Randy Orton picks a fight with Ethan Page or something, you never know. I'm just saying, like, an idea, right? He picks on somebody, he does something, hits somebody with an RKO. The cool thing is that's a moment that people will be talking about, and then with Randy Orton being on Raw or SmackDown, eventually that person from NXT could have their sights set on Randy Orton. And that's how the WWE works. Everything's a long-term thing. That's what I would do if I were the WWE here, but it makes a lot of business sense. I'm all for it. I support it. Let me know what you guys think. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.